Over the past 30 years, a quiet war against nature had been waged in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in China's far west to turn swaths of desert into an oasis of the forest. Leading this ecological campaign is the city of Aksu, located on the edge of China's largest desert, the Taklamakan, whose name translates to the place of no return. As one of the biggest shifting sand dunes in the world, its size is slightly smaller than that of Germany. Aksu used to be buried in thick sand for the better part of the year. Persistent drought hindered economic growth and defeated several attempts to extract groundwater. For many local officials, the vineyards are a success story, turning the desert green and alleviating poverty as well as filling government coffers. Grape-related businesses are some of the pillar industries to help families get richer, says a government website. An investigation by non-profit group China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation found that Dunhuang's Forestry Administration issued at least 24 licenses between 2012 and 2018 to cut down trees in Yangguan in the name of replacing and improving forests of bad quality. In 2019, the city recorded that the forest was 3 times bigger than it actually was, according to state media. With forests and grasslands burning across the planet, the importance of forests as carbon sinks has come back into the world's focus. China has become the recognized leader in the successful greening of degraded grasslands and deserts, as proven by a number of recent awards. In December 2019, the United Nations recognized China's ant forest program as champions of the earth, but Chinese greening projects have been recognized as champions as early as 2017. The Sanheba Forest Community Project, as well as Elyan Resource Group's Kubuki Ecological Restoration Project in Inner Mongolia. China's efforts have made the country the largest contributor to the global greening area. As of 2018, forests were planted in an area of 72,670 miles per square kilometer and cultivated in 8,667 miles per square kilometers. The national forest coverage rate reached 22.96%, and the forest stock reached 17.56 billion cubic meters. As for the greening of degraded grassland and comprehensive vegetation coverage of grassland reached 55.7%, 0.4% higher than the previous year. Ant Forest relies on technology to encourage green consumption behavior in users of China's popular Alipay platform. Through an app, customers can collect green credit for each action that saves carbon emission or energy. As soon as enough credit is accumulated, the company will plant a real tree, 500 MIO. Users have so far triggered 122 MIO trees. Kubuki Ecological Restoration Project is a greening project for degraded former grasslands. When Chairman Wang Wenbiao took over a saltworks plant in the middle of the desert in 1988, he had to tame the desert sands to build infrastructure to markets. He engaged local communities to plant trees, shrubs, and crops and worked on projects for local community improvement. Today, Elyan supplies ecological services and financing, and 6,000 square kilometers of Kubuki are covered by special plants that have been grown to grip the shifting sands and to prevent the dunes from encroaching on farms and villages. At the heart of the conflict is water. Dunhuang gets an average of 37 millimeters of rain a year, less than Dubai, and while carefully selected trees can survive the arid conditions, stabilize the ground and return carbon to the soil, vines need a lot more water to fruit and can worsen erosion because of the practice of covering the trunks in winter with loose soil that's easily blown away. Worse still, winemaking has one of the worst carbon footprints of any type of arable agriculture because of the amount of carbon dioxide produced during fermentation. By one estimate, a liter of grape juice produces 60 liters of carbon dioxide. Duolan, southeast of Gobi Desert, has always been dry, but decades of overfarming and overgrazing turned vast tracts of it into the pure desert. Climate change is partly to blame, but population growth is the main culprit. The number of people in Inner Mongolia has quadrupled in the last half-century, and the number of livestock has increased 6-fold. With so many people cutting trees for firewood, so many farms and factories sucking up groundwater, and so many animals chomping grass, the land simply dries up, lacking roots to anchor it and moisture to weigh it down. Fertile topsoil blows away, leaving only sand and pebbles behind. "You couldn't open your eyes when the dark wind sweeps across the land," said 48-year-old Gang Yongjun. The dark wind can be seen gathering from several kilometers away, the darkness blocking everything in view. When it comes and you need to find a place to hide, he explained. For the past 30 years, GAN has been engaged in the Techie Green Project, one of the campaigns launched by local governments in 1986 to alleviate the plight caused by unrelenting dust storms. Engineers, geographers, and other specialists were summoned to survey the land and figure out sources of water. The team was also tasked with seeking ways to turn sand into soil fertile enough for plants to take roots. After the water is poured, it would stay on the surface for 8 to 10 days without penetrating the soil, GAN recalled. The high alkaline content in the soil far exceeded levels survivable for most plants, slowly corroding and eating away their roots. To solve this problem, irrigation ditches filled with water were dug in the field in hopes that it would slowly seep through the soil and eventually dissolve the alkaline. Donkeys were the primary vehicle for transporting water. The potential fallout from the mismanagement of the land became all too clear for residents and farmers alike this spring when the city was hit by one of the heaviest sandstorms in years. The root of the problem is evaluating local officials' performance only by GDP, said Zhou Jinfeng, director of China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation. If we only focus on GDP, it won't take long before the economy becomes unsustainable. That's a lesson we all should have learned long ago, with Alan Wan and Caroline Kan. China's government recognized the need to halt desertification caused by centuries of overgrazing and deforestation as early as the 1970s. In 1998, it introduced the first systematic nationwide program, Grain for Green, incentivizing local herders and farmers to convert cultivated or barren lands on steep slopes into grassland and forests. The government has since inscribed increasing and restoring of forest coverage and grasslands as carbon sinks into China's nationally defined contributions to the Paris Agreement. The overall aim is to increase forest stock volume by around 4.5 billion cubic meters based on 2005 levels. Other policies include the 13th five-year plans for forestry development and for national grassland protection, construction and utilization respectively, the forestry action plans to adapt to climate change, and the plan for recuperation of cultivated land, grassland, rivers and lakes 2016 to 2030, among many others. The Dunhuang story underlines a long-standing question about China's Green Great Wall: how many trees actually survived? An employee at Dunhuang Wine Corporated, who requested anonymity because of the sensitivity of the issue, said that when the company rented its land, many of the trees were already dead. He said that the poplars only live for about 50 years and officials had failed to upgrade the forests with new trees. The Dual Lawn project is but a sliver of a titanic tree planting effort unfolding across China. The sand lands that cover as much as 27% of the country have expanded rapidly by 2006. They were devouring usable land at a rate of almost 1,000 square miles per year, nearly the area of Yosemite National Park, up from 600 square miles in the 1950s. Sand and dust regularly inundate farms and villages and shut down roads and railways. Hundreds of thousands of tons of it blow into Beijing and other cities, creating a vicious health hazard. Researchers estimate that desertification costs the Chinese economy billions of dollars per year. The trees we planted in the beginning died in large numbers, he explained. Yet dissolution efforts carried on for 4 more years before plants were finally able to grow on the barren land. People from almost every corner of the society, street vendors, firefighters, local officials all participated in the ambitious and unprecedented greening project twice a year, mostly during spring and winter. China's example clearly illustrates the impact that an alliance of government, enterprise financing, local communities, and NGOs can have if they all pull together to work on a common goal. The cases have been studied for possible emulation by other countries with large deserts expanding, such as Pakistan, Sudan, or Niger. To date, over 13 million trees have been planted in Aksu, according to statistics from the local forestry bureau. Agriculture has become a pillar of the local economy. Now, people throughout China associate Aksu with its sweet and crunchy apples, while other products such as walnuts, dates, and raisins have also become popular in the grocery aisles.